Welcome to the Voices for Voices podcast, sponsored by Redwood Living. Thank you for joining us today. I am Justin Allen Hayes, founder and executive director of Voices for Voices, host and humanitarian. You can learn more about Voices for Voices on our Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and our website, voicesforvoices.org. Voices for Voices is a 501c3 nonprofit charity organization that survives solely on donations. So if you are able to, please consider heading over to voicesforvoices.org to help us continue our mission and the goal and dream of mine to help 3 billion people over the course of my lifetime and beyond. Or you can also send a donation to the mail address of Voices for Voices at 2388 Beckett Circle in Stow, Ohio, 44224. And we're also now on the Cash App, so you're able to donate that way too. Our handle is Voices for Voices. Are you or somebody you know looking for a volunteer opportunity? If so, you can reach out to us today at president@voicesforvoices.org. Now, I founded Voices for Voices to share and provide a platform for folks to share their stories with others as we work to break the stigma around mental health, accessibility, and disabilities, while also helping people get the help they need by sponsoring them financially and also helping them prepare and or transition into the workforce with the Voices for Voices Career Center, where we connect talent with opportunity for both job seekers and employers from coast to coast and in every job industry and job level. And who can forget about merchandise? The Voices for Voices merchandise shop is finally up and running at voicesforvoices.org/shop, where shipping is always free. And again, all donations are 100% tax deductible. Today, please join me in welcoming today's guest, award-winning author and inspirational speaker from Ludlow, Massachusetts, Kathy Picard. Thank you for joining me today, Kathy.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak, Justin. We go way back, and it's quite an honor to see Voices for Voices grow and as it needs to be. You know, it needs to be able to help other people, and that's what it's all about. Networking is huge, and we need to offer support, help, and resources to all that we can, like I said, so that you can reach your millions goal. And you can do it. Anybody can. And one of the things that I say is never say never. You know, baby steps. Take it a little bit at a time. And that's where you started. And look where you are today. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. And for our viewers, for our listeners, if you're reading our transcripts, our captions, Kathy does go way back with Voices for Voices when we were a once-a-year event, and she was one of our keynote speakers where she was able to, as she has and continues to do, share her message, her experiences, and continue to empower and inspire individuals, not only in Massachusetts through legislation, which I'm sure she'll touch on a little bit, but also through books, through words, through pictures, and she never takes time off, probably like me, and that's because we believe that we can help as many people as we have as a vision. And so when we get a call or an email or a text to be able to share our messages, I know that Kathy is definitely a person that I want to be able to give the platform to now that we are have morphed into the nonprofit or organization that we are today. So Kathy, why don't we start the conversation with your experiences and what has brought you to the point where we met and had you speak at our event way back a couple of years ago, and then we can transition to what's happened since the event and what's on the outset for you. How can people find more about you, about your work, and just learn how to be inspired?
Sure, sure. I appreciate this very much. So again, I'm from Ludlow, Massachusetts, and my story is like many stories, sexual abuse. So I was abused as a child from the age of 7 until I was 17 years old. Today, I'm 60 years old. The thoughts, the feelings, they never go away. But by talking about it, that helps. By getting the right people in your circle, that helps. But you just have to, like I mentioned before, you have to take baby steps. So being sexually abused as a child, that was not in my plans. I did not know what to do. I did not think that it was wrong. I was getting loved by my stepfather, and I thought that it was okay. You know, I was getting told the words, "I love you." My mother never said those, but my stepfather would give me the gifts. The grooming process that you hear, that all took place. And it would continue on again until I was 17 years old. And at 17 years old, that's when I found out that my stepfather was not my biological father. And my mother said, "I didn't have to have you if I didn't want to." And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" And that's when she just disclosed that he's not your real father. And so he would approach me and say, "Kathy, one more time, let's, being abused." And I said, "This has got to stop. It's not right." I used my voice to put an ending to it. And he begged and begged, "One more time, Kathy." And I said, "If you keep on asking, I'm going to tell." And that's when my abuse stopped. So it's using your voice. That's why Voices for Voices is so important, because it is really an important thing to do. It's important to use your voice. And I, as a young girl, I never had that opportunity. I never was told in school that you should tell. You should tell your parents. You should tell your teacher. Go to the police department. That was never on my agenda of what to be told what I should do. In fact, my stepfather, who was the abuser, was an auxiliary police officer. So I was even more petrified. If I go to the police department, who are they going to believe? Are they going to believe me or him being one of them? So that was one of the reasons why I did not go to the police department. And people say, they blame the victim. Why didn't you tell? Well, I did tell. I told when I was 9 years old. I told my Grammy, my mother's mother. And you know what she said? She said, "Shh, Kathy, we don't talk about this." So I thought that what he was telling me to shut up, don't talk about it. If you talk about it, your parents are going to get divorced. It's going to be your fault. Your sisters are going to go here. You're going to go there. Your dog's going to be taken away. You're going to be in a foster home. So I was petrified. And not only that, but him being an auxiliary cop, being threatened with the gun in the home, being told you're going to be shot. I mean, why would this little girl that was me tell when I was being threatened? So at 17 years old, when the abuse stopped, I still didn't really go forward, but I told my Aunt Judy, my mother's sister, and she in fact said, again, don't talk about it, because she was very afraid of my stepfather. My stepfather was an alcoholic, and a lot of people were afraid of him. So he was just a big bully to many, many people. So I didn't tell. And I kept this secret because my Aunt Judy said, "Kathy, if you want to talk to me, you can, but please don't tell anybody else. Promise me." And so I didn't tell anybody else. My Aunt Judy passed away in 2000. And I kept that promise. As soon as Judy passed, my first stop, I took off. I went to the police station, filed a report, because at that time I was still afraid of this big bully monster. But I kept on telling everybody. I told my workers, I told my neighbors, I told my friends. I told everybody, and I still have not stopped since then. So my voice is being told. As you mentioned, Justin, I've reached as far as Serbia, doing a Zoom in Serbia because they're more up on the speed of technology during the COVID time. So I reach out to as many people as possible by Zoom, in person, and and sharing things that I've accomplished in my life. Going out, I speak at the police academy, I educate our police officers, and they need to hear it from a survivor that your voice and your eye contact are extremely important. And maybe that person's not ready to disclose their abuse for obvious reasons that I know as a survivor. They may not understand it. But when that person's ready, they are going to remember your actions, that you really showed that you cared. And that's very important. But not only going out and speaking, I speak at correctional facilities. I speak to the staff. Yes, level 2 and level 3 sex offenders, and people like, you're crazy. How do you go in and talk to these predators? And I'm like, they need to know what a survivor has gone through, and it's very important. So going to universities, but I go to where I'm asked to go. And it's really healing, not only for me, but for other people to see that, yes, I was sexually abused for 10 years, and one time is too much, but I have made something of it. I have not let that kept me behind, because I deserve a happy, healthy life. I've been married for 25 years to my soulmate, Gary, who supports me, who's there for me. And you don't need to take somebody that's not deservable of you. You deserve to be happy just like I am. Not to be in a domestic violence situation. You don't deserve that. So don't put that band-aid that, oh, I don't deserve it. Yes, you do. And sometimes it may take time. I didn't get married till I was 35. Sometimes good things take time, is what I always say. But I helped to change the laws in Massachusetts, and that was a huge achievement of mine. Going forward, after being told there's nothing I can do about it because the time has expired for me to take my stepfather through a trial and get the justice that I deserve. And I did do that. I fought. I called, I emailed. I even had one aide say, Kathy, you're bothering me. I'm like, too bad. You need to do your job. I'm a taxpayer. You need to do your job. Don't tell me that I'm hounding you.
Yeah.
So I did. I changed the civil and the criminal statute limitations in Massachusetts, and they were huge. June 26, 2014, the statute of limitations, the time frame when someone can go forward, actually changed from 21 years to a person being 53 years old. That was a huge jump. That's the civil. That means monetary. The predator does not have to register as a sex offender nor do jail time, which I still believe that they need to register for a sex offender. These bills are still being looked at, still being hopefully going to change. The criminal changed on September 21st, 2006. That was extended where a victim has until the age of 43 years old to go forward. That would entail having to register as a sex offender and jail time. I could not do the criminal, but I was able to follow suit with the civil, the monetary one. So my trial, I had a 4-day trial. The laws changed in 2014. My trial was the following year, November 2nd, 2015. I had a 4-day jury trial. It was up to these 8 jurors to decide the fate of my stepfather. And there's no proof. I'm 53 years old when I was going through it. There's no proof, but it was my word against his word. And the jurors found in favor of my story because it's the truth. And that was huge. Again, it's helping to change the laws. The other accomplishment, Justin, that I did, and the listeners, is I wrote my story.
Yes.
My husband and I, we wrote, now don't laugh, but it's Life with My Idiot Family. And it's a true story of survival, courage, and justice over childhood sexual abuse. That's my story. We named it Life with My Idiot Family because my mother and my stepfather either called us idiots or ASS holes, us four girls growing up. The book is on Audible that I spoke, my husband spoke, along with my private investigator, Louis Berry. It took us 5 years to write this, and to say that it was not hurtful, a lot of crying nights, but it was a story that needed to be written, and I'm glad that we did do it, and I'm glad we put it on Audible. My husband wrote the screenplay, and we are hoping to get the screenplay into a movie, and again, never say never.
Yes.
So it possibly could happen, you just don't know, but I'm working on that. The other thing is I wrote a children's book. Yeah. When I was a young girl, my mother, my stepfather, I was never read a book. I was plopped down in front of the TV and told to stay there. So to write a children's book was huge for me. So I did. I wrote a children's book called I Love You So Much That ... And it's a really cute book. It's for kindergarten, 2 to 6 or 9-year-old, depending on where the child is in their learning stage. But it's a cute book. It's an educational book. And it's, I love you so much that I ask you to brush your teeth. I ask you to wear a coat, not to talk to strangers, that your private parts are private. And a lot of the kids will say, well, no, or why? And it gives them the reasons of why they need to do these particular lessons. And my newest version, the expanded edition, has an activity section for the kids. So it's really cool. It's a really cute book, and the illustrations are very bright and engaging to the kids. And actually this week I read it to 132 kids, kindergarten through 3rd grade. And through my sponsors, 8 sponsors, each of those children were able to take a free book home for the adult in their life to reread it to them, so that they can stay safe. And that's what it's about. It's about keeping kids safe, safer. And I'm happy to say that both of my books are on websites of common organizations, including Child USA, Child Help, and Mass Kids of Boston. So that's an honor to have them there as a resource for parents and for teachers.
Thank you for sharing and being so transparent and really concise. That was amazing. How I can learn a lot from how you were able to consolidate all those just terrible experiences that you had to go through for many years. When you did reach out and getting negative feedback of, well, we don't talk about this, and those things that children care about, their family staying together, their pet, like those things are big. So when those are held over the head of, well, if you share, if you talk to too many people and the wrong people in their eyes, that some of those things could be potentially taken. And I know that it brings you kind of that cathartic process when you share your story. I don't know that, I don't think you relive in any of those moments, but I think when the page in the new book of the laws being changed, the trial, being able to speak to our audience at our first annual Voices for Voices event, and all the police departments, the prisons, the jails, the schools now with your latest expanded edition. Can you just speak about how that makes you feel that you are now helping people, and kind of what keeps you motivated to do that, for somebody who's watching or listening saying, wow, to endure and have to go through what you did is hard enough, but then to sit down and write book and then do the audio version, which obviously it's audio, so you're speaking the book, which is talking about the experiences that were truths, and so all those mix mash of emotions and reliving. Can you maybe just expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, Justin, it is hard to do some of the things. I do have guardrails in my way, and as you know, I've been fighting the fight over 20 years, and it's just very alarming with the statistics. 1 in every 4 girls before her 18th birthday and 1 in every 6 boys before his 18th birthday will have been sexually assaulted. And it's not by strangers, people that are teaching stranger danger. That curriculum needs to go, because 93% of these abusers are known to the victim. They enter into the home, be it a teacher, a coach, a babysitter, a neighbor, a friend. So they are going right into the home, and people may not think, because they're not scary. They're not these scary looking people that you think are going to be abusers. These people, my stepfather worked for Toys for Tots. They know the games that they need to play. But one of the alarming things, one of the hurtful things to me, is that some of the people that I approach, and those doors are not opening. And that's scary, because it's not about me. It's not about teachers. It's about the child. Think of me going home from school and being that little girl, being afraid, wearing those feet pajamas in the night and hope that he's not going to touch me. But he does. He still taps me on the shoulder and has me go downstairs. Those are things that are going to happen unless we help these children. I don't charge for most of my speakings, and it's not about the money. It's about the safety of these kids, because if we don't help them, they could not turn out like I have and have that inspiration. Or that's why we talk about the traumas, them going through the drugs and the alcohol and the suicide and the bullying. That could be because they were being sexually abused. So we need to, and I need to, and I'm still doing the fight of having these schools, these superintendents, these teachers allowing me to go in and read my book. And one of the things that they don't like is because on one of the pages, it says the words private parts. Why? I'm not saying the other words. Right. So what is so wrong with private parts? These kids today, they know they're being handed condoms. They know more than we want them to know at their age. But we need to have that conversation, and not to deprive them of being safer.
And to expand a little bit on what you're saying, that the conversation, it definitely does need to happen. And as now father of a 4-year-old, and knowing your story and the avenues and all the hard work and all the doors that are open and all doors that are closed, and how all the different methods and trying and the perseverance that you have. I'm faced with that of certain books, and to the point about, well, we don't like the private parts, those words being in the book. I'm thinking along those lines of, do we as parents, as people that are trusted, let me say trustworthy parents or loved ones, or somebody like yourself coming and stepping in and reading a book, how do we want the children to learn about certain things? Do we want them to learn from us, or do we want them to learn from their friends? Now, there's going to be some things that we just can't get in front of everything, that when children are at school, and conversations and playtime, and there's things that some things we can't control, but some of those times where my wife and myself make it a point to read to our daughter, and when those books with different types of words, and it's just interesting is that the last week or so, there's a couple books that I picked up, and I'm like, well, do I read this to her or don't I? And then, but it's after the fact now that I'm thinking, well, do I want to be the one to introduce or to share this particular conversation of somebody dying? Why, where's great grandma? Where's great grandpa? In those instances, are they going to come back? And in that context of, well, do I want to share that, or do I want them to learn and from at school with their friends? And I think that we just need to, as society, we just need to get over that. And I need to get over that personally as that and thinking through that. Luckily, she's 4 and I'm working through that. But I can totally understand that there are people maybe like myself, just in that thought process of, we don't want to share this. I don't want to get a call from a parent that says that they were read a book and these words were used. Instead of saying, we're actually educating them. We're sharing information. We're helping the situation that they might not see a result right now, but it might be 5, 10, 15 years where something that got conditioned into them, you come in and speaking and sharing your story and reading a book and sharing experiences, that could have a lasting impact. And I know as a college instructor that there are things that I don't say I throw a ton of information at them, but I do in the hopes that 1 or 2 or 3 of those experiences that I've gone through, the good, the bad, the ugly, that some of those things, in addition to the vocabulary and the different processes, that sticks with them. And when I get feedback, sometimes it's several years later of a student going through a situation and them referring back to a case study that I wrote or some experience that I spoke about. And if I hadn't done that, they might have been in a different position. So for you to do what you're doing, to continue, you are making people better by what you are doing. And maybe the parents are upset in the moment, but to have their son or daughter being taught and having this in their head, that they're going to maybe think twice if they're in a situation that they might step away.
And I invite the parents. Justin, the parents can come in because I want them to bring that conversation home. And yes, I'm not the mom, I'm not the dad in that relationship. And I get that. I get where my place is. I am just trying to give them a resource.
Yes.
And I just wanted to, if I may, just to read what the wording is in the book. The book is called I Love You So Much That. And that particular page is, I love you and I want you to be safe so much that I want you to keep your private parts private. Why? Because private means we don't show or share them with other people. Is there a time when it's okay for someone to see your private parts? And on that page is a picture of baby Bear in the doctor's room with Dr. A. Bear listening to the baby's heart. So it's okay for a doctor for the private parts with the permission from the parents, because as we know, there has been reports with doctors abusing. We just had one locally. But you want that child to be able to say, with permission, you may see my private parts, because you're right. If an adult, if a teacher, if somebody doesn't explain this to the child, then you know what? The perpetrator is the one that's going to be educating this child. Yes. The perpetrator is going to be able to say, it's okay if you show this to me, because they haven't been told otherwise that it's wrong. So that's why it's important to talk about it. One of the things that I tell the kids when I go out and read, we interact and we talk about other things, but I say to the children, I have a very important question for you. Are you ready? And they get all excited. And I said, if a stranger says to you, can you come and help me find my lost puppy? And I will give you so much candy and so much money. Now remember, this is a stranger. Raise your hand if you would go. And there are still some that do that. I
Oh,
had one little boy say, my father is a police officer, and of course I would go. But it's
uh,
not a one time, any of these lessons are not a one time
right.
conversation. It's all the time talking about it because these situations are happening all the time. The youngest, this is sad and pathetic, but the youngest that I heard is a 2-month-old baby
Oh
being
my.
sexually abused. It does happen. We don't want to acknowledge it. We don't want to talk about it. We need to have these conversations. We need to stop this from happening, and we need to protect our children.
We do, and uh, it's just crazy that it's gotten to this point where the guard really the guardrails are up towards people who are trying to help versus the people that have ulterior motives.
Yeah,
And I think a little bit, not the exact same, of course, but just with the opioid and the fentanyl and all those things that are happening, the conversations, for whatever reason, that we don't want to, whether it's label somebody or we don't want to offend somebody. But if the thing is actually happening, it's a fact. And so when the
yeah,
thing and the experiences you went through, they happen. So those are facts. You're not sharing and
yeah,
sharing information that you wouldn't if you had your own children. That when you go and you speak and when you're thinking these words through, and I know that it's just as an author and trying to put words together, which sometimes it takes me a little bit longer to do than other people. But when that it took you time and thoughtfulness to put that together, and even thinking about your first book, it took you 5 years. So there's lots of thought and how does this experience get said in a certain way, and your husband helped and wordsmith and all those things. And I think if people saw and heard it, understood that it's
yeah,
not just you saying, oh, I want to go read in front of 132 students.
yeah.
There's a
No, it's
message, but there's also that thoughtfulness behind it.
yeah, and that's what some people, I still get people, there's Kathy again, talking about it again. It's like, they just don't understand the importance of it, and nor do they want to because it's too much thought, it's too much for them. I get some of the schools, but what is a half an hour to an hour me going into the school and talking to these kids? I mean, what is the big deal?
Yeah.
Again, around the country, the world, they're taking books off shelves and this and that, and it's really sad. They're missing a lot. They're missing these resources that really can help. And I just cringe sometimes when, I call up superintendents and they don't even return my calls.
Right.
But, there are laws, speaking of laws, there are laws in effect now, bills that they are looking at to make it mandatory that these schools do touch on sexual abuse. Like I mentioned, child help.
Mm-hmm.
Child Help has research-based curriculum for pre-K all the way to 12th grade to educate these kids so that it's not scary and it works. We are limiting some of these numbers to lessen them. I just one incident, I spoke with a doctor the other day. 4 victims told their story to this doctor. 4 in one day. It's so common. Sexual abuse is so common. We need to talk about it because you know what? Some of these survivors, they may not be in the position I'm in right now. I think I'm a very strong person now, more so than when I was a young child or a teenager. but they may not be that strong, and then go through, like I said, the drugs, the suicide, the alcohol, and they self-blame. And I'll be honest, I did self-blame. I thought it was my fault. I would say to myself, why didn't I tell sooner? Did I like it? Why did I not tell? But now looking back, I did tell. I told at 9, I told at 28, but nobody was there to protect this little girl. My mother knew about the abuse, even when I was a young girl. She knew what was going on, and she didn't protect her daughter. And that's sad, but it's very common. And it's not just women, it's men too, because there are women abusers, but they don't protect. And my way of thinking about it is they want to stay in that situation for just to have someone in their life, or maybe just financial reasons, but they don't protect the children. And that's sad, but it's happening. And that's why we need to let these kids know that if you're not getting the help in the family, you need to tell your teachers, you need to go to the police department, you need to go to your neighbors, your babysitter. And the important thing is, Justin, is they need to keep on telling until somebody helps them. It could not be a one-time shot deal. Just like counseling, if you go to a counselor and that counselor failed you, you need to keep going to another counselor to get the help that you need. And I'll just say one example that I had.
Yes.
I went to a counselor, and this counselor, as soon as I walked in, she's looking at the clock, and I thought, oh, I must be bothering her. I got to hurry up and tell my story. And then when I told her my story, her advice to me was, Kathy, you need to forget about it and go on with your life. And I'm like, okay, I'm paying you a $20 copay and you're telling me to forget about it. Well, I never returned to that counselor. And my way of counseling that's helped me is talking. And I feel like I'm just helping other people, helping myself. And, I'm not to say that I don't see a counselor, because I do, maybe once or twice a year, I do see a counselor, because everybody needs some kind of help every now and then, right? Not to be ashamed of it. And it's a male counselor. And I never thought that I would feel comfortable telling my complete story, but I do share it, and I have shared it with my male counselor, who in fact took the stand during my trial and was there to support me during my 4-day jury trial.
Wow. If somebody is going through a situation similar to yours, or another illegal, not right, not moral, however we want to classify, what are the steps that they can take that now, and because you were doing it throughout the years, but now just the explosion of social media and this information being put 24/7, 365 in front of everybody, how and what should somebody do? Who should they talk to? How should they continue when you talked about talk and share until somebody listens? Who would be maybe like the individuals to that they should go through or work with? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, do I call the police right away, or do I tell my mom, my dad, my aunt, my grandma? If you touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, Justin, what they need to do, obviously, as I've been saying this during the conversation, is to tell. Keep on telling. Don't shut up. Keep telling until you get the answers that you need. Going to your local police department, going to DA, seeking an attorney. You could call an attorney. The first time is usually a consultation is free, but if you don't get the advice that you're looking for, don't stop. And I'll tell you, the first attorney I called, because I knew I wanted to get justice, and this is, again, pathetic, but I called this attorney's office and I said, the laws are going to change. I want to go forward to get justice and show accountability on his part. The attorney said to me, a well-known attorney for sexual abuse cases, does your family have money? And I said, no. And he said, well, I'm sorry, I can't take your case. I'm
Wow.
like, that was as bad as advice as the counselor. But that's why I'm saying sometimes these people just don't get it. They don't know. They have the wrong language for you. So you have to keep on going. Be your own advocate. Go out, take it one day at a time. Don't plan on doing it all in 1 week because it's not going to happen. And you're gonna, you need to self-help. You need to, as I would say, eat that gallon of ice cream, go for that
Yeah.
walk, talk to that friend. You need to self-help and just do little baby steps. And maybe 1 week you're okay, you can talk about it. Then the next week you just need time to yourself. And that's okay, because I've been on that roller coaster too, up and down, up and down. But today I don't shut up, as you know.
Right.
But yeah, so I think just find that person, get that, right advice. You can check out the laws. Again, one of the sources I gave you, Child USA, they will share with you on that particular website all of the laws, the statute of limitations for all the different states. So there is a lot of information out there. You can reach out to myself. My website is kathypicard.com. My children's website is iloveyoussomuch.org. You can reach out. I'm on Facebook. I'm not too tech savvy, Twitter and Instagram, but more or less on Facebook. But reach out to me. My email, I'm happy to share it, is Kathy with a K and a Y, childadvocate@gmail.com. Again, I don't know all the answers. I don't know of anybody that does know all the answers, but I have a lot of resources that I am happy to share with your listeners.
And I appreciate that. And please send those email to me so we'll be able to include in our show notes.
Okay.
And then that will go into the search engines and route that way as well. And again, to Kathy's point, she may not have every single answer, but she has the unfortunate experience of going through the situation and the experiences itself, as well as the people to talk to reach out, resources to start. And I think that's important, because I know, just to bring it back to my own experience with kind of my mental health struggles before I ended up getting admitted and getting the help, there were so many hoops to jump through of have to go to a family physician, then the family physician has to refer, and there's that period of time like, well, I don't know if I want to do that. Like, it's an extra step. And so just that thought process, as well as all the additional tests. And then when I decided that I think I might need to talk to somebody other than a family physician, which they are trained, but just not in the specialty that I need. And I was being told, well, it would be a couple months till you're able to be seen by a specialist, and you have to be referred, which meant I'd have to go back to the family physician to be referred, and then obviously then insurance comes in. Well, what insurance do you have? Oh, well, we don't carry that. Or and so there's definitely, just in life, there's always hoops to go through. And a big reason that I want to have, and having Kathy with us today in our new Voices for Voices podcast format, to have her episode televised as well as on our YouTube and all audio platforms and transcripts, is she has that tenacity, that perseverance to never give up. So if it's sexual abuse, if it's something different, that a message of takeaway is to just continue calling, continue emailing. And I think that transitions into the work that you're doing, the reading in the schools, the speaking opportunities, the podcasts like ours and others that you've been on, that just taking those opportunities that maybe those opportunities didn't happen 10 years ago or at a specific time, but when they come, you like me is like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. Let me get my availability and let me do that, because they're so passionate about what we do and what we're the message that we're sharing. And I think for listeners, for viewers, readers, to just to know that yes, there's somebody that has that tenacity, that perseverance, that it really is trailblazing and has trailblazed the way, that you've already enabled and had legislation that has changed to the positive for the victim. And so you've done a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, a lot of in-person visits, and other communication methods just to be heard. And there will be sometimes, as you've mentioned, the doors will shut for whatever reason. But when that door opens, and it might seem like, well, do I really want to share to this potential event or to this person? Like, who's that really going to help? But in the end of the day, that leads to, in just the way life happens, it leads to other opportunities to be able to share. And in your case, to be able to share through the words on the page and through pictures and speaking opportunities to be able to read to students, versus years back that the things and the methods that we use, they just change over time, whether it's COVID, where we're able to bring you into the studio through Zoom. Now, if COVID wouldn't have happened, I don't know if the opportunity, if the conversion would have happened as seamless as it has. But when that happens, it's like, oh my gosh, we need to get people that are as passionate as we are the opportunities to share. So while we might not be the largest podcast, we still have a reach that is throughout the United States and other countries. And for you to have reached Serbia, and through the event that you spoke at for Voices a couple years ago, we had feedback from Singapore. And as you know, Allison, one of our speakers, she's in Australia, and maybe some of those connections that you're able to touch base, and they're able to share a post or like and be able to do things that way, that it doesn't always have to be money. It can be little things of, wow, like I have a network that I could share this, and it might be seen by somebody that could have a use for it. And then an email or a call could happen, and it might be in a day, it might be in a month, it might be in 6 months. We just don't know. But you are a prime example of that perseverance, and I think that it's just amazing that there are people like you and I out there that we might not get the airtime as other maybe talking heads, other individuals, and we're trying to do a heck of a lot of good in the time that we have here on Earth, because we want to leave kind of our network and our lives and the people,
Legacy.
and we want to have that
We
legacy.
want to leave our legacy behind, and right before going through the trial, I want to share that I had a brain tumor. My doctor had called me in and said, I was feeling dizzy, and my doctor's office, they didn't even know. They said, you have vertigo. And I said, no, something's wrong. And I'm not even a doctor, but everybody knows their own body. And so they did an MRI, and I had a brain tumor. And right after the trial, I had that removed, and knock on wood, but thank God I'm good. I'm good. I've got a lot more to do. And like you said, we need to leave a legacy behind. And there are some people that are here on Earth that they don't do anything. And I mean, if I was to pass tomorrow, I'd be happy, because I know that I made a difference. And you're right. Sometimes we don't know who we touch. You know, some people reach out, some people don't. We might get a call tomorrow, we might get a call in 5 years, but it's about, we know that we have helped people. How many, we don't know, but we know that our stories, our voices can truly help so many. That's why we don't shut up,
Yes.
Justin. We keep
No,
going.
that's right.
And, you know, my book, the children's book, is in a couple months. By then it should be done, but I actually am making it into bilingual. So it's going into Spanish. And
Fantastic.
I've been asked to put it in Portuguese. But I said, you know, it all costs money, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I am making it into a bilingual book. So I'm very happy about that. So if that, and you know, if the movie could take place, my husband could retire. And but right now he's got to work because somebody's got to pay the bills. But you never know. You know, I put my pants on just like these
Yeah.
actors and actresses, and you know, never say never, you know, and just take it one step at a time. Don't say, oh, I wish I didn't do that. You know, self-blaming is huge. You know, I wish I didn't do that. Well, would have, could have, should have. You don't know. There's a reason behind everything. And sometimes we don't know that reason for years to come. But sometimes things happen and they happen for a reason, and it's out of our control. But just know that you are doing the right thing by stepping forward and sharing your story and getting the help that you need or that you can do for somebody else. You know, help somebody else. Don't be selfish. You know, if that person, if somebody comes to you and says, I want to talk to you, take the time then, because that person, if you walk away, that person is going to say, I forgot about it. I don't remember. It wasn't important. It was important because they approached you, and be that person for them. That is one thing that I always tell people. If somebody wants your help, please listen to them right then and there.
Listening is free, doesn't cost anything. If somebody is asking to speak with you, or speak to you, to me, there's a reason. There's something on their mind. It could be serious or could not be serious, but there is a reason. And I just want to reiterate to our audience, our listeners, our viewers, if you are in a leadership position, if you have the ways, the means, please reach out to Kathy for a speaking appearance, to come to your classroom, to read her children's book that really is helpful, and it's positive change that needs to happen. And what better way is to help at a younger age, to help them a little bit earlier in life, so that can help them later in life instead of after potential negative, bad experiences, legal things have happened. If you're a university president, a professor, if you own an organization, sexual abuse happens in the workplace too. Please reach out to Kathy. Her information, as well as being on the podcast itself, will be her contact information, ways to get in contact with her, in touch with her, will be in the show notes. And Kathy is, and I'm not just saying this as having you on the podcast, but she's really a good person and has the goodness in mind and the thoughtfulness when she is sharing her message. So if it's a word that you might not agree with it being said, there's thoughtfulness and reasons, and some things just have to be said to get a point across. There's only so much tiptoeing around an issue or an experience of getting an important point across. And so knowing that there is thoughtfulness and knowing how much time goes into the work that she has and continues to do, that's important. So if you're on the fence, if she's reached out to you or somebody like her has and wants to share with students, with a church group, whatever, a prison, a jail, it doesn't matter. We're all human beings, and we can learn from somebody who unfortunately has been through some tough experiences. And again, Kathy, like myself, we're here to help people. We're not here to hurt people. We're here to help. There might be some words that get used that might sound like, well, that's being mean, and that I don't want that to be said. I just take you back to early in our conversation where we're talking, do you as a parent, a teacher, somebody of importance and authority that is doing the right thing, do you want to be the person sharing information, or do you want that person that is up to no good? Do you want them to be sharing that information? Again, going back to Kathy's asking the students about if a stranger came up, said, asking about the puppy and had a large amount of candy, would you go with them? Do you want Kathy and somebody that has the good-naturedness in her, in the helping, and want to have prepared somebody for a potential negative situation that they could totally avoid? Or do you want that stranger, do you want them to be sharing that information? That's really what we're talking about here. So I want to thank you, Kathy, for joining us on the Voices for Voices podcast. Again, if you just want to maybe talk about a couple of the methods of how people can get in contact with you.
Sure. So they can reach out. Kathychildadvocate.com is my website, or my children's book, I Love You So Much.org is for the children's book. And again, I just want to say the children's book is also paw signed by my featured dog, Abby.
Oh.
The kids love that. So, it's really cute. Baby showers, they're asking for a book now instead of a card. One request that I have for the listeners, and I ask every time, and if you could please support me and go to Amazon and do a review of my 3 books that are on Amazon. That helps me more than you know, to show that you too, in fact, support my mission and my books. So to go there and to do a review, even if you put good resource, that helps me. To me, like I tell everybody, it's like I scratched a scratch ticket that morning when I check, because I check every morning. Did I have a review? And I'm like, yay. But you could reach out that way. My email is Kathy with a K and a Y, childadvocate@gmail.com. Please reach out. I'm on Facebook, and I want to thank you for your time, Justin. Thank you a million times over.
You're welcome anytime, and this won't be the last time we're talking. So happy to have you, to see you, to see the positive change that you're enacting, and that you're taking that perseverance and continuing. You just continue to help one person at a time, and that's one less person that has to go through a difficult situation. So we thank you for your time today. And we want to thank you, our viewers, our listeners, checking out our transcript, for joining us on the Voices for Voices podcast. And a big thank you to our guest from Ludlow, Massachusetts, Kathy Picard, for spending some of her time with us today. And until next time, I am Justin Allen Hayes, and we hope that you have a great day and be a voice for you or somebody in need.